Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a Media Matters special for Anfield Index. Things are pretty bad right now, aren't they? After another defeat against PSV, there was a press conference on a Thursday afternoon, which was a little bit strange, and a lot of stories and speculation doing the rounds. And after David Lynch's pretty, stark comments yesterday, I thought we'd grab another patch journal while we could. So we managed to hook Mr. Lewis Steele. Mr. Steele, how are we?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's been a busy week for me and for everyone, I'm sure, covering this crisis and potential managerial sackings and everything else that's gone in between. So it's been non-stop, really, trying to work out what's going on.
Yeah, what is actually going on? I mean, there's a million and one things we want to ask you. We'll start a little bit with Wednesday night, because that was the latest development. We know Arne Slot his press conference on Thursday, but rewinding to Wednesday, I mean, just in terms of a performance, and the greatest respect to PSV, we played some nice football, but the fact they're in the Eredivisie, the way Liverpool played, the fact it's Anfield, a 4-1 defeat, and the display, it was borderline embarrassing, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was embarrassing. I think that is the biggest embarrassment of the lot, and there has been quite a few recently because I've been at all the games, and I was sat down at Brentford and I remember thinking Brentford absolutely bullied Liverpool there. They deserve to win. That's the worst of the lot. And then Forest rock up, and then that's even worse because they were 19th before the game, and you've got the Anfield factor, and then PSV turn up. I know they're the leaders in Holland. I know they beat Napoli 6-2 in the last round, one of the other fixtures. But I was stood there at half time having my cup of soup with the other Patch journos, and I was saying these are bang average. And I still believe they're bang average, which isn't meant to disrespect them if any PSV fans are watching, which I very much doubt they are. But Liverpool were just outplayed in the second half, and once that 2-1 went in, they just showed no sign whatsoever of looking like they were going to come back and draw or win the game. So I think it's absolutely right, the criticism that the manager has got in the aftermath of that.
Yeah, there's no real excuse for it. And I mean, we've talked before about, and you mentioned like the Brentford defeat. There's been a bit of a blueprint this season about go long against Liverpool, be physical, get set pieces. You'll get joy. There's no two ways about it. But the Forest one was a little bit different. And this one, I mean, PSV aren't a physical side. They didn't go long. They, as you said, they probably are bang average. Respect to them. They played some tiny football, but they didn't even have to do much or go physical.
No, I mean, there was about a 10, 15-minute period in the second half where I was like, have I misread who Liverpool are playing here? Are they actually playing PSG? Because, the way they were passing it around, and just Liverpool couldn't get near them at one for 10 or 15 minutes. And, the kit was similar to PSG, which sort of helped that comparison. But I don't know, it reminds me a little bit of, and this is going back a little bit, but when Fergie left United, and they were just every week it would feel like the headline would be Team X wins at Old Trafford for the first time since 1978 or whatever. And it's like teams are now coming to Anfield, which is meant to be a fortress, meant to be the toughest place to go, or one of the toughest places to go in the country. And teams like Forest, PSV are rocking up thinking, we can win here. Sunderland, next home game, Wednesday. I mean, they're going to be, they got a point off Arsenal 2 weeks ago. So they're going to be looking, thinking, do you know what? We can record one of our most historic wins of the last couple of decades. West Ham on Sunday. West Ham are quite average. They're on the, they've already sacked Potter this season. They were terrible for the first 10 games of the season. So I know they've turned it around a little bit, but Liverpool should be beating them. And now all of a sudden I think of that game and think, Nuno knows how to set up a team. He knows how to make it hard. He's beat Liverpool with Forest last season. All of a sudden you talk up any team and their possibility that they can beat Liverpool, because this is just how bad they are at the moment. So he needs to turn it around, because if they don't win, with a good performance on Sunday, then I struggle to see how he can keep his job.
It does feel that way. And I know you wrote, because you were at the press conference yesterday, and I know you wrote the piece before it about how the pressure remains on Arne Slot, but he does retain the backing. And it's probably important to say right now, as highlighted in the tweet there, from the powers that be. I mean, almost even with Sunday, just all the records were breaking for all the wrong reasons. The lack of build-up, the lack of press, 1,000,001 issues you can put towards. It's almost, it's on the verge of untenable. I think it is right now, it seems, doesn't it?
It is. I think, if there was a ready-made replacement who would be easily attainable, then I think maybe the conversation would be slightly different. But I think the fact it's all happened so quickly, it's not been a gradual decline. It's been like a fall off the cliff sort of thing. I think it's taken everyone by surprise. Everyone in the building's a bit shell-shocked at what's happened. And that includes your Richard Hugheses, Michael Edwards of this world. I don't think they needed a contingency plan for what would happen if Arne fell off a cliff, as he has done. But right now, I think I put a poll out where, but it was about 72% said that he should get sacked. So I don't like to say that it's, if he loses on Sunday, his job should be gone, because I always feel like when you get to that level, then it's like a bit, maybe he should be sacked anyway. But it does feel like if he loses on Sunday, then he's walking on very, very, very thin ice.
Yeah, and like you said, almost it feels like we're maybe drawing to the inevitable. And you were at that press conference yesterday, because a few bits I did want to ask you. I'm guessing it was a bit of a different atmosphere. Is that the right way of phrasing it, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that was me reading too much into it, but the whole thing from the second I walked in felt different. And that goes to the fact that I struggled to get a parking space, which says there was a lot more media than normal there.
Yeah.
There was a couple of Dutch journos there. One of them, who had come over for the game, was meant to fly back on yesterday morning, but decided to rearrange the flight for another time to come to the presser, because all of a sudden Slot is now the biggest story in Holland as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just different, and he's normally got cracking a couple of jokes here and there. I think he knows that the fans just aren't going to like that anymore, and it's some of his jokes when Liverpool are winning, it's like, haha, great, but when they're losing, it's like, well, not really sure you should be sitting there making little gags here and there. So it was more serious yesterday. There was a lot of questions about his future.
Yeah.
About it. Instead of last season, it would be worded like, does this player deserve a run in the team? Now it was, why on earth are you not playing this player? Like, more, I don't know, passive aggressive.
Yeah.
In the way that people ask the questions, although obviously not intended to be nasty to him. But I think he knows he's under pressure. He claims he doesn't read anything in the press or online, but then sometimes he will just mention things, and it's like, there's no way that you don't read that, because there's no way that you've just been told everything. So I think he does read stuff. Maybe it would have been wise for him to leave his iPad at home yesterday and not go through the newspapers and whatever, because it was pretty scathing after that PSV game, and rightly so.
Yeah, there was no way around it. And some of the stuff he said in the press conference, I get he's got to come out fighting, and show a bit about him. But there was this, because I saw you tweet this, and I was like, when you just like, you're not scratching your head, but it's a little bit when he was talking about, the XG in the last 3 games, 6.594, 5.39 against, but it's actually been 10-1. As he said, it's ridiculous. Normally you score more than your XG, but I didn't need to, XG to know we missed a load of chances. He kind of intimated the same after Forest as well. But you watch the game, it wasn't like Forest keeper or PSV keeper were saving shots galore, or we were battering the goal. Yeah, Gakpo should score a header. But other than that, I know what XG can say, but you're struggling to remember big chances or that type of scenario where we were battering the door down.
Yeah, I mean, I think XG is good for some things, but also it doesn't say what was happening in the game at the time of those chances. So in both last night, not last night, Wednesday night, whatever day it was, and the Forest game, Liverpool played okay for the first half an hour, or for the first half even maybe. I'm not saying they played anywhere near their best, but they were creating chances. Against Forest, they could have easily gone in 1-0. Against PSV, it could have been the same. They could have gone in at halftime 2-1, and both games would have been completely different. So that's what the XG is showing. What the XG is not showing is the 15, 20 minutes in the second half where Liverpool almost just threw in the towel and just give up, because I'd like to see the XG after Forest went 2-0 up, or after PSV, sorry, not PSG, scored their second or third goal, because it was like Liverpool's heads just dropped. There's a lot of senior players in that team with a lot of experience. You look at Virgil, Mo, loads of others who played nearly every game last season, and it's like they look like a team that's never played together before now.
Nah, it just looks so disjointed across the board. And naturally, even after that game, there was a lot of people, and understandably saying, surely got to go, got to pull the plug. Will he get West Ham? All the speculation, it seems, were there. It was interesting because, of course, he was going to get asked this. But when he's on talks with the hierarchy, we've had the same conversations that we had since I've been here. We fight on, we try to improve. The conversations are the same as they had been. There's absolutely, as we know, no way the nature and tone of those conversations with Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards, etc., if they're taking place, are the same at the moment, are they?
No, well, apparently they are, but I mean, I unfortunately aren't in the room when those conversations are happening. I also don't think that Richard Hughes or whoever would come in and say, you've got one game to save your job, because that's just not how it operates in real life. So I think it's fair to say as well that Richard Hughes is not blameless in this as well, because, Big Moves Hughes, as he was being called by some in the summer, we don't want to rewrite history, because everyone else was saying it was one of the best windows we've ever seen. So we can't really, in hindsight, disagree with that. But as a lot of people said, the last week of the window, they did seem to be a defender short. With Mark Gahey, would he, if he was here? I mean, I think a lot of people, because of what's happened at Liverpool, people seem to now think that Mark Gahey is prime Maldini or Baresi, which he's not, but he's certainly better than Konate has been the last 2 or 3 weeks. But then again, so are most defenders in League Two. So, yeah, I mean, the conversations are apparently positive, and Slot's got the backing, which is good. Which is good for him. But if he doesn't turn it around, there's 3 league games in the next week. They're all against quite average opposition. Sunderland have had a good start, fair enough, but Leeds are poor. West Ham, and they've got some nice players, but if you can't beat West Ham, then I think it's poor. So I think he needs at least. I think Carragher said he needs 7 points, and I probably agree. You give him the benefit of the doubt in one of them, but if you don't get 7, if you don't get 9 points, I think the people are going to be seriously calling for his head.
Which, to be fair, as you mentioned before, a great majority already are. And we are talking about Slot, which is completely right. And you mentioned a few of the senior players, because I know Arne Slot, the build-up, the pressing, all the issues that he just doesn't seem to be able to solve, mad substitutions at times. But it's never just one person's fault. It's always a collective. He's being let down by a lot of players at times, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think, I mean, Dominic Szoboszlai aside, I don't think anyone has had a season that you can say is anything above a 6 out of 10, really. Maybe Ekatike the first few weeks of the season, but, the rest of them, it's just been terrible. I'm going through the team in my head now, and they've just all been big letdowns, really. And, you look at Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, you mentioned them because they are the big 2 names. This time last year, every conversation around them mentioned the contract, but you have to say, like, if they were playing like this, last season, then I don't think people would have been so worried about the contracts. But then you look at the new signings as well. None of them really have done anything. Isak is just nowhere near fully fit yet. I mean, he made a run the other night. He'd only been on about 10 minutes and he had his hands on his knees. Looked like he looked like I do after I've just finished a 10K round the park. And then Florian Wirtz, obviously, we know that he's not been good enough yet. The Kirkes, the same. Frimpong, we've hardly seen him. Stuff like this. So no player has, apart from Soboslai, has any credit in the bank this season for me, to be honest.
Nah, it's been disaster across the board. And it is right, because you mentioned a few players. So we got a few injury updates. Hopefully we might get more. That trying to be positive a little bit. It sounds like Alisson, if I'm right from the press conference, should be back for West Ham. And Vert, maybe touch and go. Sounds like he could be close.
Yeah, so Alisson was ill on midweek, so he should be fine. Wirtz is set to train tomorrow, Saturday. So they're not training today. A few of them are in the building doing recovery work, because I think a lot of people seem to get very wound up about the day off thing. But I think that's just common practice, match day -2. So they're doing a bit of light work, but no official training session. Ekatike may make it, but I'd say more unlikely than likely at this stage. But that's just based on what Slot said yesterday. Frimpong and Bradley remain out for a few more weeks, probably about mid-December for them too.
Yeah, which, I mean, Curtis Jones, Dominic Szoboszlai at back, amongst many things that aren't working at the moment, but to be without right backs is a bad development. And I mean, speaking of defenders in that way, we got told that, Joe Gomez has not been able to take part in full training. We know he's been getting injections at the same time and he's not even playing. We've got Leone out. I mean, centre-back's just such a worry for us at the moment, amongst many other things.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest worry, because last season they were so solid at the back that if the strikers had an off day, you could sort of get by, because apart from a couple of games, Liverpool still are scoring at least one goal in these games. Obviously, that wasn't the case against Forest and City, but if Liverpool could at least be turning defeats into draws, which is probably what people on podcasts about Wolves and relegation teams talk about, not the Premier League champions, but at least then it would be draws, not defeats. But the fact that there's leakage so many goals means the strikers have just got so much to do. And the likes of Salah come under the microscope every single game, and Gakpo, I think, if he had a suitable replacement, I think he'd be out of the team.
Yeah.
Obviously, Luis Diaz is gone, and Slot obviously doesn't think Rio Engamo is up to anything more than 10 or 15 minutes off the bench. So I think the defence is the biggest issue for me. But even like Virgil's not been good enough, really. Konate is the one that is the scapegoat, but I don't think Van Dijk can really look in the mirror and say he's been at his best this season either.
Nah, there's so few. Like I say, Dominic Szoboszlai probably the exception to the rule more than anything. And I mean, with the way Ibu's played, the Leone injury, obviously Gomez, they say, getting injections just to get through training. You mentioned it before. It just makes that failure to land Mark Gay in the summer or another centre half, it just sort of amplifies it, makes it look worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so most teams can get by with 4 centre backs, and you have to say that Gio Leone getting injured is just rotten luck. But Liverpool knew that Joe Gomez is not fit ever. Yeah. A great lad and a great servant to Liverpool, but he played about 15 minutes in the whole of 2025 before that. So yes, on paper they've got 2 deputy centre backs, but I was almost counting Gomez as half of that because he's just never fit. And it's like you look at Arsenal right now, and Gabriel's injured, and they've just signed Hincapie, and they've got the other lad who played against Liverpool. can't remember his name.
Mosquera.
Yeah. So they've got them, and they've got obviously Timber and Calafiori can play in there. You look at Chelsea, they've got quite a lot. City have got about 7 defenders. So Liverpool just really thin, and it's really cost them. So Liverpool obviously dilly-dallying over that Gahey thing. Leone was always the priority, but I don't know. It just felt to me like sign Gahey, tell Joe Gomez off, thank you very much, but go and play every week for an Aston Villa, Newcastle, that sort of team. So yeah, that's come back to bite them big time.
Yeah, it really, there's no other way of saying it. And it is right to ask you about sort of transfers, because even though we spent 450 million in the summer, it might well be new players and more cash that's going to have to get us out of this mess a little bit. And you knew I was going to ask you about this. Antoine Semenyo, you've mentioned this. We've had Ornstein Romano, Alex Crook, basically anyone who covers transfers, or Patch Journo has been aware of this. This one, because of the clause, because of the nature, maybe Liverpool take anything, I suppose, at the moment. But there seems real legs in this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if Antoine Semenyo is a Liverpool player in January. That's not to say it'll definitely happen, but the start of the summer, as I've said or written before, Liverpool were very keen on him, and I think conversations are taking place. And I think the biggest obstacle back then was Richard Hughes thinking, what would the optics be like if I go and take 2 Bournemouth players? And at that time, Milos Kerkez was seen as more of a priority because left back was seen as a bigger thing to upgrade. Now, obviously, we've got the benefit of hindsight, so we don't need to go back over whether that was true or not. But Semenyo has this clause, which there's until Ornstein revealed that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that was a bit of a mystery, because a lot of people in the journalism seem to think that he did have a clause, but no one really knew what it was, and United and Spurs didn't know what it was either. So there are other clubs interested as well. City are looming away in the background, but I'm not really sure whether City will go in for him. Just based on the fact they've got Doku and Marmoush and Savino and all these. Spurs, I'm mainly just thinking, why would you want to go and play for Spurs? But then you could probably say, why would you want to go and play for a team that just lost 9 games? So, but yeah, I do think that Liverpool are the front runners right now. So let's see what happens on that. But it would be a massive sign. And you think also, when Real Madrid lose a game, they always seem to leak out some transfer news. So it'll just give everyone a boost if Liverpool bought Semenyo in January. So let's keep an eye on it. But yeah, probably the front runners right now.
Yeah, we could do with any boost we could get. And I mean, I mentioned, or we talked about Mark Gay there before. We need, it seems, a lot in terms of people will say progressive players, but it seems we're short of a centre back. But all the talk seems to be from David Ornstein that, it's been unlikely. Paul Joyce has said that he doesn't expect Liverpool to go back in for January. Is there any chance of, if not Gay, another centre half even in January, do you think?
Maybe. I do just think it's Liverpool were so close with Gahey. I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was a little under the table agreement there with him and his camp to come to Liverpool, because he had his heart set on that in August and it didn't materialise. And, obviously, I think he's proven as well. I think it was a very, very good signing at the time. I think he's proven since just what a good professional he is, the way he's got his head back down at Palace, and they're doing quite well. I think they're in the top 5 or 6 of the table. So, he's proven again that he's one of the best defenders in the Premier League. So whatever happens with Konate's future, I think that he would still be a good signing. I'm not sure about other defenders right now, but obviously they looked at quite a few in the summer. But I suppose they've already done their young one with Leone. But a lot depends on Konate's future. Maybe they'll know a bit more about that in the next few weeks. Because, as of 5 weeks from now, he is free to go and sign a pre-contract with anyone.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which we've probably got to turn to because it's been the hot story. And I know you'll be making calls and doing bits this morning since David Ornstein's deal streak dropped. There's almost, in a way, as I'm saying this, if they watched him recently, it shouldn't really be a surprise. But people felt it was a done deal. But Real Madrid will apparently not be making a move for Konate. And David Ornstein also mentions that, Liverpool have got that contract offer. They're trying to sort it. I mean, is that what you're hearing? Is that, but there could also be other clubs it's been mentioned, like PSG, Bayern. It's still not quite clear cut, is it?
No, I mean, his future still is in the balance, I think it's fair to say. So the PSG, Real Madrid thing that David's reported this morning is interesting. So, I mean, if you're Real Madrid, if you're a scout, you're not watching the last 10 Konate performances and thinking, do you know what? He's a Real Madrid player, isn't he? So it's not a huge surprise. I spoke to a guy in Madrid and he basically said, yeah, they're quite happy with Hoyce and Eder Militao, so they don't want Konate. So that's good for Liverpool in the terms of getting him to stay. But yeah, it's not done and dusted yet, and there's still no agreement between Konate and the club.
Is it? This is going to sound harsh in a way, but I can't think of another way of asking it. If he does get the renewal, it's not the celebration probably it was a good 6 months ago, realistically, I think, for a lot of Liverpool fans. I'm not saying it's a negative, but probably not what it was.
No, it's not really, is it? But I don't know. You have to think over the last 2 years, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt that he was really, really good last season. And I think if the way scouts operate is that they don't just watch 10 games, they'll watch 50. So over those 50, I'd say 40 of them have been good and 10 of them have been horrific. So I think the thing with Konate was the big thing was always, can he stay fit for a run of games? He seems to have done that, which is good.
Yeah.
Now it's, can he be consistent for a run of 5 games? And he hasn't done that yet. But he is still young, relatively young. So he's one of these players that, if everyone around him is playing well, he's playing well. Or he tends to up his game as well. So if Liverpool can turn it around, which I do think they will, by the way, sooner rather than later, we'll see how his performances improve. But I would 100% be dropping him and putting Joe Gomez in the team.
I think I'd do the same. I don't think you can really justify starting Konate with form, and especially after that showing in that massive mistake on Wednesday as well. I mean, even if Joe Gomez comes in, as many people want, West Ham away Sunday, like you said, Nuno and West Ham fans, they'll be licking their lips. They'll think we're favourites for this, won't they?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. And that's what we said a while back. Like, every team that plays Liverpool now will be smelling blood and thinking this is the time to play them. Just like I said about the United thing back in the day, where every team was suddenly getting the first win over United for 20 years. West Ham had that terrible start to the season, but their last 3 games has been win-win draw. They were 2-0 up in that draw against Bournemouth, who are a good team. So they're no mugs, West Ham, by the way, and they've got some good players, Paquetá, Bowen, a few others. A few other not so good players. But, at home, their fans will be smelling blood. I mean, the London Stadium's hardly the best stadium in the world for creating an atmosphere, but I'm sure their fans will be well on side, and they seem to, I presume they're quite liking Nuno and what he's done there. As I said earlier, Nuno beat Liverpool last season with Forest.
Yeah.
I think he's a very solid manager in terms of, those bottom half of the table teams and getting them punching above the weight. Look what he did with Forest, and before that Wolves. Yeah, he's quite bad at Spurs, but he's done a good job wherever he's gone, and he seems to have always got them big wins over the big teams. And Sunday he'll be fancying the same, and Liverpool just have to rock up there, and they have to settle, and they have to get the first goal, and they have to just, if they do go 1-0 down, just try to not let the heads drop. It's all the basics. I feel like I'm giving a Sunday league team a team talk, but That's what it feels like at the moment. And they just have to remember how good they actually are, because Salah last season got 57 goal involvements. Now all of a sudden he looks bang average. I think it's fair to say, and the same for a lot of them. So they just need to just try and get a bit of confidence, because I do think once they get that one, if they win on Sunday, I'll fancy them to win the next 2 next week. But if they lose, I'll be like, oh well, Sunderland are a good team, and then you'll start to think Leeds, well, they're crap, but Ellen Road's a tough place to go. So it's all these things. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'll be at West Ham, but it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got a little trip to the Big Smoke, haven't you? You'll be on commentary. People will get your dulcet tones for that. And I suppose one final one way I've got you. Anything you can tease out for us? Because I know, like last week, you were writing about Salah AFCON, other developments, anything that might be dropping in the near future?
Salah, Liverpool and Egypt are having talks in the next day or two about when Salah's going to be going to AFCON. So I think if we ask Arne Slot on Tuesday ahead of Sunderland, I think he may have an answer on that one, or maybe later in the week. But I think the date is going to be finalised short in the next 7 days over when Salah's going to AFCON, whether Egypt can get him a week early or not. So the big question mark is the Brighton game on the 13th of December. Egypt play, I think, Nigeria and a friendly the day after that. So they want him to fly out that week, basically. So Liverpool don't obviously want that to happen. But that's what's going on at the moment. And then we'll have to wait and see on developments on Semenyo in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Injuries, maybe we'll start to see a bit more of Frimpong back on the grass in the next week. Bradley should be stepping it up soon as well. So I think things will start to turn a corner now. Liverpool just need to get a few players back. But the problem they have is there's not too many changes Slot can make. I think it's the I don't know if this is a saying or not, but the problems are the solution. So just has to keep battling through it and see what happens.
It will be fascinating to see, and ultimately it'll be fascinating to see what happens with Arne Slot. But there we go, people. A lot to be worried about. We'll have to see what happens in this next week or so, starting with West Ham on Sunday. All it leaves me to say is, for making a bit of time before the trip down to London, Mr. Steele, it is much appreciated.
Pleasure, as always.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters